Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through the 8A assignment. All right, start with 1A here. Simplify the following. So really here, all we're going to do is just basically multiply like terms together. So we'll multiply the two constants together. So 2 times 3 is 6, and there's no x's to multiply together, so we get A is just 6x. Okay. E, we have 2x times x, nothing to multiply the constant by, so that just stays as 2, and then x times x gives us x squared. Okay. I, negative 2x times negative x, so think of this as negative 1x. So I do negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, and we have x times x is x squared. Okay. And then m, negative a parentheses squared is negative a times negative a, which will end up giving us just plain old a squared, because the negatives will multiply together to get a positive. All right? Okay. Next one, number 3, expand and simplify. So really all we're doing on this here is we're just distributing through. So 3 times x and 3 times 4. Right, so that'll give us 3x minus 12, and then distribute this through also. So plus 2 times 5 is 10, and then 2 times x is 2x. Okay, so we multiplied them through. Now we just want to collect like terms. So 3x and 2x gives us 5x, and then negative 12 and 10 gives us negative 2. Okay. D, same thing, distribute through, and away we go. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 1 is plus 3. 6 times 2 is 12. And then 6 times negative y is negative 6y. All right? You usually want to put your variables in front. So the y's, we'll add the y's together first, and then the constants second. So 3y and negative 6y is negative 3y, and 3 plus 12 gives us 15. All right? Okay. So next one here we have is G. So we'll go 2 times b minus 2 times a. So just again distribute it through. So we got 2b, and then 2 times negative a is negative 2a, and then 3 times a is 3a, 3 times b is 3b. And when we also have multiple variables in here, we'll usually go alphabetical. So negative 2a and 3a is a, and then negative 2b and 3b is 5b. All right. Let's see, J here, we'll go with x squared. Nothing you can really do with that right now, but let's distribute first. So we'll leave the x squared there first. X times x is x squared, and then x times negative 1 is negative x. So we have 2 x squareds. So we just simplify that as 2x squared, and then a negative x. Okay. M, negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. And then for some reason, this is where a lot of people get kind of stuck on things, is a lot of people are good at doing negative times the 3, or think of that as negative 1 times 3, which gives us gives us negative 3. And then negative times negative gives us our positive x. Okay, so when we're distributing through, make sure you keep that negative. This is where you, especially when you do negative 4 times negative 2, I see a lot of people will put negative 8 there instead of the positive 8. So just make sure you're keeping track of those. Negative 4x and x is negative 3x, and then 8 minus 3 is 5. All right? All right. Next one is number 3 here. Let's see, expand and simplify. So really, you can do your FOIL here if you want, or honestly, I really like to do the stack method. So I'm going to show that to you a bunch and try to convince you that that's better than FOIL, because this is, I don't know, it just makes a little bit more sense with the math that you've done from since you were in like first and second grade and stuff where you stack stuff on top of each other. So I'm going to just move this x plus 2 over here, and then we're just going to multiply straight across like a 2-digit by 2-digit number. All right, so 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 2 times x is 2x. We can even put the 0 there to hold the spot. X times negative 2 is negative 2x, and x times x is x squared. Add those all up. 2x minus 2x is 0, so we leave that. And then we just end up with x squared minus 4. Okay? So same thing, I'm going to put this under here. 4 plus x. X times negative x is negative x squared. X times 4 is 4x. 0 to hold the spot. 4 times negative x is negative 4x, and then 4 times 4 is 16. Oops. Okay, so we end up getting the negative x squared here. Those 4x's turn into 0, the 4x and the negative 4x, and then we get 16 minus x squared. Or you could write this as negative x squared plus 16. It doesn't really matter too much. Okay. I'm going to put the 5a plus 3 underneath. You can also move this over underneath that side. It doesn't matter which one you move under which. But 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. 3 times 5a is 15a. 5a times negative 3 is negative 15a. 5a times 5a is 25a squared. Right? Add those together. Negative 9. Those negative 15 and positive 15 turn into 0. So we get 25a squared minus 9. Okay? So hopefully you'll notice on all of these, all the middle terms all dropped out. The x's and the a's in this case over here, and that's because you have a difference of perfect squares. So that's difference of perfect squares, difference of perfect squares, difference of perfect squares. You have the exact same numbers at the beginning in the fronts and in the backs, but the signs are opposite. Those middle terms should always drop out. Okay? Not drop out, but add up to 0. Okay. Number 4, expand and simplify. This is really this really looks like x plus 3 times x plus 3. Right? I see this over and over again where people try to distribute the square through. That does not equal. You have to do x plus 3 times x plus 3. You actually have to multiply it out. So again, I'm just going to stack one on top of the other. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times x is 3x. X times 3 is 3x. And then x times x is x squared. All right, that's a 0 there. And that's 9. There's 6x, and there's x squared. Okay. So same thing here. Instead of multiplying it, writing it out like that, and foiling it, I'm just going to stack 3x minus 2 over 3x minus 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x, and 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Okay, add those together. 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. I really kind of like the stack method because, again, as long as you're going up just by 1 power of x each time, which we do for the most part in here a lot, you can use this little stack. Alright, this one here we can stack on top of each other again. 3 minus 4x, and negative 4x times a negative is positive. 4 times 4 is 16, and x times x is x squared. Negative 4 times positive 3 is negative 12, and we have an x there. Alright, 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, and then we've got an x there as well, and then 3 times 3 gives us 9. Alright, so we get 9 minus 24x plus 16x squared for all of those. Alright, next one, number 4, expand and simplify using perfect square expansion rule. So they have there are rules that you can follow, but honestly, if you just, I don't know, there's memorizing rules and stuff, which I don't think is a real great use of brain power. I would just assume, say, oh, okay, I'm just going to multiply this out. So 3x plus 4. If you, after a while, if you happen to find easier ways of doing things that always work and is mathematically sound, then by all means, go for it. But I'm just going to keep multiplying them out like this. Okay, 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3x is 12x. And then we've got, let's see, 3x times 4 is 12x, and then 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Okay, add those. Gosh, that's super crooked, sorry. 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. Don't know how that got so crooked. That's all right. All right, C. Let's put 3y plus 1 underneath here. Again, I like to scratch the 2 out so I don't think that I have to multiply it again. Just make sure that I'm not messing stuff up. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3y is 3y. 3y times 1 is 3y. And then 3 times 3 is 9. And y times y is y squared. Okay, add those all up. 9y squared plus 6y plus 1. Okay. Let's put a 3y minus 5 under here. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And then we have a y in there, so negative 15y. 3y times negative 5, again, is another negative 15y. And 3y times 3y is, 3 times 3 is 9. And y times y is y squared. So we get 9y squared minus 30y plus 25. All right, we are multiplying like crazy right now. We got this. Expand and simplify. So first thing you want to do is multiply this out, and then notice that that whole thing is being subtracted, so then I'm going to distribute that negative through to all the pieces in there after I simplified it, and then collect all my like terms. So kind of getting a little bit more entailed here, but that's all right. X plus 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times x is 3x. X times, oops, put the 0 in there. X times 3 is 3x. And then x times x is x squared. All right, so there's a 9. 3x and 3x is 6x. And then we got an x squared here. Oops, I don't want to circle that because I'm not done. So we just simplified this right here. So this stuff right here, that right there is what equals this. So I need to put the rest of this stuff back on it. So that negative goes there, and then we also have a 3x plus 1. So now I'm going to want to distribute that negative to all 3 parts of this. So it's really going to be 3x plus 1 minus x squared minus 6x and minus 9. And now I'm going to collect all my like terms. And I always want my highest power out front. Well, it's just good practice. So I want my highest power out front, so I get negative x squared. That's my highest one. I usually like to circle it and cross it out to make sure I don't forget anything. And then I got negative 6x and positive 3x, which gives me negative 3x. Cross those out, and then 1 minus 9 is negative 8. And there's nothing that's left over, so that's my final simplification of that. Okay, this one here, I'm going to want to multiply these two out, because these are multiplied together, and then I have x plus 3 squared. I'm going to multiply those out too. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 2 times x is 2x. X times negative 2 is negative 2. X, and then x times x is x squared. Right, so that gives us x squared. And the 2x minus 2x gives us 0. And then so I have a minus 4 here. So that's this all simplified. Now I'm going to simplify this one. X plus 3 and x plus 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times x is 3x. X times 3 is 3x. And then x times x is our x squared. All right, I'm just going to draw a little line down there to make sure I don't start adding two things together. That shouldn't be. 3x and 3x is 6x. And we got x squared here. So now we have this turns into x squared minus 4. This turns into x squared plus 6x plus 9. So now we can add these together. So now it's basically just collecting like terms. So we got x squared and another x squared. So that's 2x squareds. I've got a positive 6x and nothing else. And then I got a negative 4 and a positive 9. So that gives me plus 5. And that is my, that's what that simplifies out to. Okay? All right. 3 minus 2x squared. So I'm going to stack one on top of the other. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, and x times x is x squared. Negative 2x times 3 is negative 6x. 3 times negative 2x is negative 6x, and then 3 times 3 is 9. Right, so it gives me 9 minus 12x plus 4x squared. Gives us that part there. And then we have subtract these things over here. So I'm going to just do x minus 1. Okay, and then negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 times x is negative x. X times 2 is 2x. X times x is x squared. So then I add those all together and I get x squared plus x minus 2. Okay, so this here, this squared, turns into that down there. This part right here turns into this down here. But I got to remember to make sure that I bring that negative down. Okay, so really it's the opposite of this whole thing. We're subtracting that whole thing. So I'm just going to leave this over here. Maybe just rewrite it. 9 minus 12x plus 4x squared. And then distribute this x through to all, negative through to all these pieces here. So that's negative x squared minus x. And negative times a negative is positive 2. Now I'm going to collect my like terms. I've got a negative x squared and a positive 4x squared, so that gives me 3x squareds. Negative 12x and negative x is negative 13x. And then 9 and 2 gives me 11. Okay? All right, one last problem here. Expand and, oh, actually just the last part of 6 here. Expand and simplify. So same thing that we've been doing. We're just going to stack them up. So I'm going to just move this one over here, x minus 2. That'll just give me more space for this one over here. So negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 2 times 4x, negative 8x. X times 3 is 3x. And then x times 4x is 4x squared. Okay, so we get 4x squared. Negative 8x and 3x is negative 5x minus 6. And then we've got 2 minus x squared, so let's go 2 minus x and 2 minus x. Negative times negative is positive. X times x is x squared. Negative x times 2 is negative 2x. 2 times negative x is another negative 2x, and then 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so that gives us x squared, negative 4x, and then that's a 4. But again, remember, this negative has got to come down here. We're subtracting this whole thing here. So we end up with 4x squared minus 5x minus 6, and then distribute this negative through, which is basically switching all the signs. Negative 4 plus 4x minus x squared. Okay, and then now let's collect our like terms. So we got a negative x squared and a 4x squared, which gives us 3x squareds. We've got 4x and negative 5x, which leaves us with negative 1x, or just negative x, and then we got negative 4, and negative 6 is negative 10. Okay, and we've covered everything there. All right, multiply these out, and then add them together. Thankfully, it's a lot easier when you've got addition in there. And then you don't have to worry about forgetting that negative to bring that negative down. But anyway, 1 minus x. Negative x times negative x is x squared. Negative x times 1 is negative x. 1 times negative x is negative x. And 1 times 1 is 1. So we get 1 minus 2x plus x squared here. And then x plus 2 here. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times x is 2x. X times 2 is another 2x. And then x times x is x squared. Alright, so this ends up giving us, and there's a big plus here, we get x squared plus 4x plus 4. And now we can just collect like terms, right? X squared and x squared is 2x squared. We got positive 4x and minus 2x, which gives us plus 2x. And then we've got a 4 and a 1, which gives us 5 when we add those together. Alright, last one here. 1 minus x over 1 minus x. Negative x times negative x is x squared. Negative x times 1 is negative x. 1 times negative x is negative x. 1 times 1 is 1. So we get 1 minus 2x plus x squared. Right, and then this one here, x plus 2 over x plus 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times x is 2x. X times 2 is 2x. X times x is x squared. So you don't really have to ever put that 0 in there. You can, probably even a better way to do this is just to realize every time you see, like whenever I have my x's, I'm going to line those up together. X squareds I'm going to line up. Constants I'm going to line up. And then it makes it easier to add them up at the end. Let's see, that's plus, 4x. And then that's x squared. Oops, put a couple too many pluses in there. So, oh, look, we kind of got these on different, I've got these on different lines, but that's okay. So that's x squared and x squared is 2x squareds. Positive 4x and negative 2x is plus 2x. And then 4 plus 1 is 5. Interesting. We ended up with the same. Oh, that's because I forgot the negative, just like I told myself not to do. Alright, I'm going to back this all up. Okay, this negative has got to come down here. This whole thing has got to switch all those signs. So let's just do that right down here. So negative x squared minus 4x and minus 4. Now we can collect like terms. Negative x squared and x squared turns into 0. Negative 4x and negative 2x is negative 6x. Negative 4 and 1 is negative 3. So that gives us negative 6x minus 3. Alright, that's all there is for the 8A assignment. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask in class. Thanks.